Today on the Modern Motherhood Podcast from All Mom Does, I'm your host, Julie Lyles Carr, and we welcome one of the most amazing voices, musicians today in contemporary Christian music. I'm sure you've heard of them, Casting Crowns, and today we have mom, musician, and just all around interesting human being, Megan Garrett. Megan, welcome to the podcast.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. So give us some backstory on you, your family, and all the things that are family life for you.
I am married to Ryan Garrett, my husband, for going on 15 years. We have 3 kids. Eli is 5, Lucy is 7, Lily is 12. My husband's a youth pastor, so he stays at home and does that thing while the kids and I travel every Thursday, Friday, Saturday for the most part. So our life is a little bit different than the quote norm that you would imagine. You used a word earlier when we were talking collision, and that's where I am this morning. It feels like a major collision of all things.
I love hearing how y'all have worked out for yourselves, his career, your career, where the kids are going to be. It is really, we're a homeschooling family as well, and I work full time. And while I love being able to have all of that, there are times that people are like, okay, so tell me how you make all that work. And I'm like, man, it is to me, such an individualized little pattern on how you tweak all that and make it work. And I'm not opposed to spelling tests at 9:30 at night. How are you kind of fitting all of that in? Because people always want to know, what does that look like?
You know, I think there's this common misconception with homeschoolers, like, before I homeschooled, my first child was really small. My first thought was, ain't no way that's going to happen. I am not organized enough. There's no way.
But, and that is a common testimony amongst a lot. Yeah. I call us the accidental homeschooling moms because we were never going to do that. We thought that was crazy sauce. So yeah, we are of that tribe. Yeah. I can make t-shirts. Accidental homeschool mom. I'll get you one.
Hey, I will wear it proudly. I will wear it on stage if you send it to me.
All right.
But yeah, it's like I was so fearful of it. And then with the crowns thing and my kids traveling with me, I kind of honestly don't have a choice. So really, accidental, maybe not so accidental. Maybe it was just God going, well, we'll see how you do with this because you're going to do it. But it's really just kind of figuring out what works for you. There's 3 moms on the road that all homeschool. Mark's wife, Melanie, she's our road manager. She does everything. She is that type A personality that's just like, we're going to get up at 7. We're going to do school. We might even do 3 days of school, and we'll be done at 10 at night, and y'all can go to bed, and we'll do it again in the morning. Yeah. And then, Melody, the violin player in the band, she has 2 kids, and she homeschools as well. And they do the Charlotte Mason thing where they all sit together, and they all sing songs together, and they all, read out loud and do everything together. And then I am the mom that is like, I just need something where I can facilitate and not teach all of you boogers because I'm on the road by myself. My mom is with me, but it's not the same as having dad out. So I have a video curriculum that we're doing that they have a teacher and all of their books, and I just kind of facilitate and make sure they're doing everything. And too, I'm the mom too that is also like, it's really pretty outside. Let's go to the park.
Right. We'll make a science lesson out of that. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really, there's a lot of versatility in homeschool. I mean, you just tailor it to where you are in life and what you're doing and how your personality is and how your kids are. And, ultimately, if it's God's will for my kids to be a rocket scientist, he's already hardwired them that way, and it's going to happen,
Right.
But me as a mom, I think my main goal is to teach my children to love Jesus with all of their heart and to walk with Jesus and to love people and to serve people. And, my girls to know how to take care of a home, my boy to know how to change a tire. I mean, there's so much that obviously we don't have a tire changing class in homeschool, but there's a lot of stuff teaching at home that's just kind of caught, and I think if my children grow up to love Jesus and to live Jesus and to make him known, I don't care what they do. I don't care if they're a doctor or whatever. I just trust that God's going to lead them in that. And I'm just trying to be obedient now and not try to think of what they can be, but just molding them into what God has already planned for them to be, right now.
Just doing the present well. Just doing the very present well. Now, how did you become involved with Casting Crowns? Because my lead pastor at my home church where I serve is Randy Phillips of Phillips, Craig and Dean. They have just recently celebrated 25 years as a group, which, as is is fairly unusual, but y'all have been together a long time too. So tell us about the history of Casting Crowns and how you ended up in that family.
Well, we are also going on 15 years of being the Casting Crowns, as you guys know it.
That's amazing.
But we kind of feel like the old people in the industry now. Mark is a youth pastor. Long story short, when he came to Atlanta, he came to the church that I grew up in. So most of the band came up with him, not for the band thing really, but for youth ministry called Jumpstart Resources that they were launching, and they all agreed to come up to Atlanta just to kind of launch that. And they also happened to be in a band and led worship for the youth, and they just kind of absorbed me. I had grown up in Eagles Landing First Baptist Church and was in college at the time and still leading worship and helping out with the youth. And from there, some guys in the church paid for us to record a CD of all of Mark's original songs, and we did that and never sent them to radio stations, never tried to do anything with it. It was just kind of a giveaway for kids that would come into the youth group to say, hey, here's your youth workers, here's some original songs, here's the gospel on the sleeve, the inside sleeve. And basically God just said, I'm going to do something different. I know y'all aren't anticipating this, and he orchestrated all of this. Our CD got in the hands of Mark Miller, who's the lead singer of Sawyer Brown, a country music band, who is also best friends with Stephen Curtis Chapman and the head of our record label. And they were on vacation together. They were going to play golf, listened to our CD, and called us from the beach and said, hey, we want to sign you guys. And Mark was like, wait, what?
Yeah. Is that a thing? Yeah.
Right. Wait, how did this happen? So ever since then, I think the key phrase anytime the industry talks about Casting Crowns is this never happens. And so, yeah, we've just kind of been holding on for dear life ever since. And God's just done some pretty amazing things and taken us to some pretty amazing places. And we've just constantly just been trying to not just obey what he's calling us to do, but to truly delight in our calling.
So, Megan, when did you realize, this is really going to be a thing? I mean, obviously a phone call on a beach going, we're going to sign you. But was there a moment on stage or off where you thought, okay, this really is a thing? Like, this isn't even just, we're going to kind of develop this project and see if it sells and on and on. Like, this is it. This is the path that I never anticipated. And now I'm firmly on it.
I can't think of a really kind of defining moment. My life at that point was such a whirlwind. I was engaged to be married. We got the phone call, I guess, late spring, early summer. We got signed in June. I got married in August. We left for our first tour in September.
Well, so hello.
It's like boom, 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 boom. So it was just like, okay, I guess we're doing this thing.
Self-actualization would have been a luxury at that point. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. So we're just like I said earlier, just literally hanging on for dear life.
Wow. So there's 7 of you in the band. What have you learned through the years about interacting, creative control, the give and take of working in close proximity and heart with others? Because I know a lot of times for creatives, man, sometimes those differences in opinion, the ways that you want to express things can get a little gnarly. So what have you learned?
Well, I think in any ministry, whether it's music ministry or, we've learned in the church that we're in now, when you're working with other people closely, it's very important to know them and to know them well. And to do that, you have to be intentional. I think in relationships in general, as humans, we kind of tend to look at people and go, oh, I could totally be their friend. Or, I don't think we mesh very well. I don't think we're going to be good friends in the long run. But really, I've learned that all different personalities, all different ways of doing things, you can totally be great friends and do great things together if you're intentional with it.
Right.
So the way we travel, we have 2 tour buses. Each tour bus sleeps 12 people. They're both jam-packed full of adults and kids and crew people. And we're literally we're not just traveling together. We are living together
right.
in close quarters. And so I think, honestly, if I didn't know each and every person well and deeply, men and women, children, it would be very, very hard to do that and to keep the same heart and the same vision of what we're supposed to do. I think intentionally knowing people and knowing their heart and knowing why they do the things and how all their quirks and all of their differences than you, it makes it a lot easier when you do kind of bump heads or have a little friction. It makes it easier to kind of step back and go, well, I know them. They're just having a bad day. Rather than just go, oh, well, he's a jerk, or I can't believe she said this. She's always this way. You can really kind of step back and go, okay, 1, I'm tired. 1, I'm ready to be home. I know them, and this is out of sorts for them, and there's a reason why they're doing that.
Right. I love that concept of being very intentional. We talk a lot about in ministry being very intentional to protect our marriages, to protect our families, to make sure that those relationships are strong and sturdy as we seek to minister. But a lot of times on our ministry teams, whether that is the steering committee for the annual tea, all the way up to something like being on stage with all these other amazing musicians and ministering through music with Casting Crowns, we sometimes miss that mark and don't realize it can be a place of attack. And
Absolutely.
within the ministry teams I work with, thankfully there are some really great friendships. We are doing things to be more intentional, to foster and nurture, and importantly, protect those friendships, because I think it is really critical for any of us wanting to minister well to model and live out well what it means to live in community. And certainly being on a tour bus altogether would be a super good acid test for how well your community's going.
Absolutely. And you know what? You really, like, if you're doing ministry, whether it's in a church or whether it's on a tour bus or whether it's in a hospital, you need to like the people you're working with. And I think so many times, like I said earlier, we as humans go, I just don't like them. I think one of the things that irks me the most when I hear, I don't have to like you, but I do have to love you. And it's like, that's not Jesus' love. You know what I mean? I think that's tailoring what the Bible says about what Jesus' love looks like to how we feel. And Jesus' love doesn't have anything to do with how we feel. It's seeing people where they are, meeting them where they are, seeing all of their quirks and everything, and choosing to love them anyway. And I think when you choose to love somebody, you're really going to like them. And the Bible also tells us that God calls us to do things, and it's not worth anything if we're not doing it with great joy. You don't want to grumble around and do things. You want to do it with joy. And one of my biggest testimonies, I actually have a tattoo on my hand that just says delight. God, it was one of those, like, has God ever kind of taught you a lesson where you're like, I can't forget this. I need to remember this forever.
Raise that Ebenezer. Put that mark. Yeah.
I was kind of in a funk where everybody gets that way in ministry, where you're just like, what am I doing? I can't seem to hold it together. There's no joy in this. There's no whatever. Long story short, God just basically, I'm a words person. I feel like sometimes God just chooses to give us a word that's for you and for you only. And you know what that means, and he ministers to you through that you see in Scripture and kind of illuminate. If I don't want to sound weird and hokey, but a word that just kind of starts standing out. And
it starts showing up in interesting places. And I've had that
So
experience.
Delight was my word that God showed me a few years ago, and it was from Psalm 48. It says, I delight to do your will. Oh my God, your law is in my heart. And it was like God just grabbed a hold of my heart and said, Megan, you've got this obedience thing down pat, but you're not delighting in what I've called you to do.
Ooh.
And it was just like, laid me flat. That I was like, I called my husband. He was at the office and said, babe, I need a tattoo today. He was like, whoa.
What are we doing?
Time out. Let's talk about this. But a couple weeks later, I eventually got it. It's on my right hand, like right below my thumb. And I wanted to see it when I'm packing a bag and when I'm driving my car to the bus with screaming kids in the back, when I'm playing the piano, when I'm signing an autograph, when I'm shaking a hand. I can always see the word delight. And it's like, I don't ever want to forget that God's called me to this, and he doesn't just want me to obey and do it. While that's good and great, there's a million other people that are way better singers and piano players and speakers, apparently, because I can't make my words come out right. But, way more qualified people to do what I'm doing, but he chose me to do this, and he wants me to delight in this.
Beautiful word. Beautiful. Now, you had one of the band members, Mark Hall. He went through a health crisis and was diagnosed with kidney cancer. How did this extended family, this Casting Crowns family, how did y'all rally around that, deal with the unknowns of that? What was that experience like?
It was almost surreal. It was definitely one of those, okay, God, what are you doing? For a moment. And then my husband looked at me and he goes, Megan, imagine what kind of song is going to come out of this. And I went, oh, man, because you've probably always heard Mark talk about our songs aren't just cool lyrics that he comes up with, but it's doing life in the church.
Right.
Every song is about a story or a person or something that we've personally dealt with people. He has Voice of Truth and those kind of songs, but as far as like a really big thing, I think it was his first, as far as like a storm goes, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to see somebody that you respect so deeply, for his faith and for his godliness. It's hard to see somebody struggle, and I remember we were all sitting around him backstage like the week before his surgery. We were about to go on the stage and we were around him and we were just going to pray over him. And he just said, I don't know what to say. I feel like I just have the ball of death inside me and I want it out. And it was just to hear him say those words was the first time he was kind of really transparent, where we saw the little bit of fear that was in there come out. Mm-hmm. It was hard, but it was really cool too, because I think vulnerability, like I was talking about with the relationship, when you go through a season of vulnerability with somebody and you see them come out on the other end, man, it solidifies your relationship so much more when you walk through something with somebody. And their family's just amazing. Like, I wish everybody could really know Mark and Melanie and their faith and everything. But he's doing great. He's 3 years cancer-free now.
Awesome.
And he's Oh My Soul came from that song, and it's probably one of my very favorite songs he's ever written that we've ever sung together. And
that's amazing. And you touched on something I was going to hit you up for next. Live Song is a huge song for me. I'm pretty sure on some different things where I've had requests for bio, if it has like, and what's some of your favorite, music and favorite song, I'm like, Live Song from Casting Crowns. And then I also love Big Mama Thornton, which if you don't know, you gotta, she's, if you love anything by Elvis, you have to backtrack and go to Big Mama Thornton. But, what for you, now you've just mentioned the song that came out of Mark's experience, but what are some of your favorite Casting Crowns songs? Which is going to completely put you on the spot.
No, it seems like it always changes,
Right.
like with different seasons that you're in. Of course, I've always loved East to West. It's one of my favorites to sing live. Who Am I has always been one of my favorites. Right now, in the season that my family's in right now, the very next thing, actually, which was never one of my favorite songs on the album, it's like God is making that one come alive in my heart right now. And as well as What If I Gave Everything, off of our new album. That's one of my probably all-time favorites. And I'll go back old school. I love Every Man. Mm-hmm. I look back at
you could do
all the different seasons. Yeah. But as of right now, I would say What If I Gave Everything and Very Next Thing are ones that kind of gripped my heart.
And we'll put links to all those in the show notes so our listeners can, if they're not familiar with those, they can go find those real easily, or can listen again to some of those and be renewed and refreshed and remembering, oh yeah, this amazing song. So we'll get those linked in the show notes. Now, as we've been mentioning, you're in the middle of a major tour season, and we've got a lot of listeners out there who travel a lot for business, or their spouse does, or they're a military family, all the things. So you are the one who is not traveling with your spouse. I love this whole Melanie and Megan and all the M's that you guys have going with all the women who are on tour, but you're traveling without your spouse. So what are some things that you do to keep your relationship strong on the home front while you're on the road?
Again, this word, I think you and I have used this word a bunch today, but intentionality is huge. A relationship can go kaput really quick if you're not intentional in every way, shape, and form. My husband, one of his mentors, gave us a paper when we got married, just a piece of printer paper that was printed in black ink. It says the 3 Ds, and it says, number 1, dial daily, number 2, date weekly, number 3, depart quarterly. And we have tried to live up to that. It hung on our fridge for like 15 years. We try to abide by the 3 Ds. When I'm gone, obviously, we dial daily, not just text, but we speak and we hear each other's voice, and we try to have intentional conversation every day, even if it's just, hey, how's your day going? I love you. I miss you. Just hearing each other's voice. Dial daily. Date weekly. We try to go on a date every week. Now, with parents with young kids and ministry and traveling, and obviously that doesn't always work to get all fancied up and go out on a date. Sometimes a date looks like putting the kids to bed, grabbing some ice cream, and sitting on the couch and binge watching something on Netflix. You know what I mean?
Right.
And sometimes it's going out to a nice dinner, or sometimes it's sitting at one side of the dinner table while the kids are on the other side playing a game or something. You just, again, you have to just be intentional. You have to find your way around it. And number 3, depart quarterly. Again, sometimes we do it. There are times where we've missed it, but about every 3 months, just go somewhere overnight. It doesn't have to be hop on a plane and go somewhere awesome. It can be the hotel across the street, or it can be whatever. But just to kind of get outside of your norm and to go somewhere, just the two of you on a neutral ground for 24 hours, just to be away and just to be with each other, really does wonders. Also, just remembering that it's easy to get caught up, like we were talking about with homeschool earlier, what the normal is, and to compare yourself with what the normal is, like the 9-to-5 job, and I clean the house and I have dinner ready and we all have dinner together about 5:30 or 6 every night. We put the kids in bed, all this beautiful normal stuff that you grow up hearing. This is what life is supposed to look like, but it's really about finding your own normal and what God has called your family to, and making your own normal work and not comparing it to other people's.
Right. And we've found that to be very true for us. We have 8 children, which is outside the norm, and life is much crazier in some ways, although some of the crazy is the same for everybody. We just all think that there's some placid land where crazy doesn't exist when it comes to the raising of these families, and it's not out there. I looked really hard. I did a thorough internet search. But I think one thing that Mike and I have had to definitely, part of that unpacking of what does it mean to be in that intentional space when it comes to relationship, we actually had to jump on our calendars and penned out, I think we did 4 to 6 months in advance this year, what our date nights would be. And can I just tell you, and listeners need to know, and almost immediately, stuff started coming up against those very nights that had been clear the night we sat down and said, okay, so in May, we're going to go out on this Thursday night for a date. And wouldn't you know it? I mean, I can't even believe the kind of stuff that all of a sudden began to target that night in May. So I even think you need to know that it's okay to have to get intentional to that level. And sometimes when it comes to these romantic aspects of our relationships, we're almost hesitant to get that in the weeds on calendars, but it sure helps, at least in our world, at least in our normal version of crazy. It sure helps.
And the enemy is going to go after your marriage first and foremost. And we find that it seems like every time we're packing, I'm in the middle of stressing to pack for me and all the kids, and it never fails. Something comes up and we start bickering at each other or arguing or whatever. And every time my husband will stop and go, no, stop. We need to address this for what it is. I'm not going to let the enemy get this. You're about to leave to go minister to people this weekend. I have a big thing coming up with the students this weekend. If our marriage is off kilter and if you leave mad, if you go on the road mad and there's something between us, it's going to hinder both of our ministries. Our mind space is not going to be right. Our heart's not going to be right. And that's just something, it's true. Spiritual warfare is so real and it is so powerful, and it's going to go after your marriage because I think the enemy knows your heart is so heavily invested in your marriage that if he can get your heart a little off kilter, he can totally get you distracted.
Fantastic distraction method. My husband, Mike, and I speak together quite a bit, and we finally are wising up. Megan, I'm embarrassed to admit how long it took us to wise up to this. But we love to speak together. Mike's a phenomenal public speaker. And when we've been asked to come and speak on marriage, guess where some of the biggest throwdowns have happened? Right before maritally. And people go, oh, that doesn't sound very spiritual that you got. But I'm finally wising up to the fact of realizing, no, it's an attack. I mean, if we can be snarling and then we're supposed to go out and try to help people with their marriages, the first thing we have to recognize is that component of warfare that comes in. I hope that's an encouragement to listeners out there who are like, I'm trying to do good stuff for the Lord and it makes my spouse and I fight. Hey, heads up. You heard it from Auntie Megan. You're hearing it from Auntie Julie. It's a warfare thing, and it's okay. You just need to know how to combat it through prayer and through honesty and through talking it out the way that you said that your husband instigates for y'all. I think that's really powerful. We'll be right back with this conversation with Casting Crowns' Megan Garrett. But first, I wanted to make sure you're getting plugged into a really strong and helpful community, and you can do that through MOPS. For over 40 years, MOPS has been inviting women into community through the commonality of motherhood, building friendships, and earning the opportunity to share Jesus with them, maybe for the first time. MOPS believes that all moms are world influencers and exists to encourage and equip all moms everywhere to live their best lives. Check out mops.org to find a local gathering in your neighborhood. Casting Crowns was able to go to North Korea. I'm really curious to hear what that experience was like. Were you on that trip, or how did that all go down?
Speaking of spiritual warfare, we've been twice, actually.
Wow.
And it is still when I look at pictures and stuff, it's still kind of surreal to this day, especially with all the going-ons now. Looking through my little Auntie Meg eyes, I don't foresee us going to North Korea again. But so basically, it started with Kim Il Sung, the first leader. He did an April Friendships Festival art of, it's all a weird arrangement of words, but it's basically in April, and it's music, and it's festival, and it's arts, and it's friendship.
Is it the thing that I've seen? I think there's a documentary that shows it's like this massive festival where all the coordinated dancers and all of that. Have you seen that documentary the British team went in and did? I'll send you the link. It's fascinating, but it sounds like that's what it was for. Yeah.
I would imagine that's what it is, but basically where it's like they're celebrating his birthday in April, the original leader. He would throw this massive festival, and he would invite representatives from all different countries all over the world to come in and share something of the arts. So you would have the Russian ballet would come, or like the London Symphony, just these crazy, amazing arts things from all over the world. One of our friends, he works for a NGO, non-governmental organization, where he goes in and helps with first aid and crisis relief and stuff like that. He has worked for a long time in North Korea. He's a believer, but he actually has worked in hospitals, like getting equipment and stuff like that. So he has great relationship with the people. He sent a song to them. We had just gotten a Grammy, so he was able to present it as a Grammy Award-winning band from America.
Wow.
They listened to our music. They listened to Voice of Truth and Who Am I and Life Song, I believe, and If We Are the Body. And somehow they approved the lyrics and invited us to come. And they gave us the formal invitation, and we went, and we got to sing Jesus over that country. And we learned a couple of songs in Korean.
Wow.
Of course, Mark, being Mr. ADD and Mr. Dyslexic, could not learn it. So Meg had to do it. And so it was quite humorous looking back on it now, thinking about that. We were in this big theater, the curtain parting and opening up, and you would hear gasps like, it's Americans, because, they had never seen Americans before. And then, I start going, Pangap Sumnida, Pangap, which is singing this Korean song, this Korean pop song that's, incredibly cheesy sounding. But we learned a song in your language, and we're going to sing it to you. Almost like we always say in ministry, you have to earn the right to speak truth into somebody's life. You can't just, especially in student ministry, you can't just waltz into their life on a Wednesday and a Sunday and go, this is how you need to live. You have to invest, and you have to earn the right to say the things that you need to say. And when you're on stage in North Korea, maybe you get like one chance to kind of say, I want you to listen to me. And so we opened up with that, a song, one of their popular songs in their language that we sang. And then we sang Life Song and Who Am I and If We Are the Body and East to West over them. And just didn't mince words at all. Just Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And we had to sing a song that they might know worldwide. And you have to submit all of your songs before you sing them. And we submitted Amazing Grace, and they approved it. And so we got to sing Amazing Grace. And we've got lots and lots of stories. Some, kind of spooky and scary. Let's just say they're watching and listening to everything you do, everywhere you go. And we've got lots of stories where it was like, are we in a movie right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was amazing. And it was just furthermore, like I said, we had just won a Grammy. I truly believe that Grammy, the purpose of that Grammy was to get us into North Korea twice, to sing Jesus over those people. And we've heard stories of people that are there, underground missionaries that are in hiding, and they have a radio station that they play all over the nation. It's one radio station coming from Pyongyang.
Right.
And we were able to, one of the Korean songs that we recorded, it's a secret track on one of our albums. It's called White Dove Fly High. And Mark and I are singing it. It's a very traditional song, kind of operatic sounding. But this was when we went back with Kim Jong-il, the son who,
right, is now,
away.
Yeah.
Not the one that's now, but his dad that passed away. He loved the song so much. He heard it from the live broadcast when we sang it, that he asked us to come to the radio station and record it at their radio station so that they could play it. And we've heard numerous accounts of people saying it's amazing to me to be here, underground, and hear the voices of Casting Crowns sing a song about peace come over the radio. It just gives me total chills just to think what is this life?
That isn't okay. I'm sitting here. I got to interview John Irwin a while back for I Can Only Imagine, Mercy Me, for the film, and I'm sitting here thinking, I've got to connect y'all to the Irwin brothers because this sounds like the most amazing movie. I mean, it really does. It just sounds
the Irwin
incredible.
They're dear friends of ours, so maybe.
Yeah.
With a lot of that, we really do have to be careful for our friends that are still working there.
Mm-hmm.
We do have to be careful with some stories that we tell and some things that we say because, as you know, North Korea is very particular in what they want known about them. They're very secretive, and they don't trust Americans. They don't like Americans. So, we do have to be very careful on that. So maybe there will come a day where we might do that and share some of the stuff.
Just incredible. Just incredible. Well, thank you for being such amazing ambassadors, not only as Americans, but as followers of Jesus, that you were able to go in. I'm just floored at the doors that opened for you. And yet that's our God, right? I mean, it's just amazing. Now, with current events like North Korea, with current events, with different things that we're seeing, different, famous guys coming under deeper scrutiny and on in today's culture, what have you learned about men and women working together in ministry, in industry, in music together that you think has been helpful in kind of keeping the enemy at bay for Casting Crowns when it comes to some of our most current headlines in this country about men and women trying to work together?
Yeah.
It's an easy question. It's an easy question, right?
It is. It's all about setting up safeguards. It's so easy, I think, with anybody to say that would never happen to me, or I would never do that. But it's really just, it's one little choice at a time. One little tiny little choice that you make at a time that kind of builds up. Nobody ever wakes up in a hard situation and goes, how'd I get here? They can look back and go see and which is where Slow Fade came from, our song Slow Fade. It's one little choice. You just have to be careful with every little choice and take captive every thought. And, like I said, really for me personally with I'm one of two girls in a group of 7 band members with, a slew of crew guys, not counting opening bands and stuff like that too. So, I mean, it's just females are few and far between traveling with us. But like I said earlier, really knowing my bandmates, knowing these guys are like my brothers, I would trust them with anything. 2, my husband really knowing them having a relationship with my husband and my family, I think is very important. And it's the same at church with my husband. His assistant, Jenny, is one of my dear friends, and I've had to, when we first came to the church, I was very intentional in getting to know her. Not because I didn't trust her, but because my husband was going to be working in very close proximity with a female, and there are safeguards that you have to put up, for your marriage. So like we talked about earlier, that's going to be Satan's first pursuit, when you're in ministry, to try to tank you. And anything can happen. I don't ever want to be naive enough to say that that'll never be me, and I think even an accusation, a wrongful accusation, can be brutal on a ministry. We love Billy Graham's whole stance that he took with women. He wouldn't even ride on an elevator alone with a woman. I'm not going to ride in a car alone with any of the guys. I'm not going to be in a closed room with any of the guys. Even, if you're writing a song or anything like that, you're always make sure people are around you. You're never going to be at the hotel, even though we have different rooms, never, at a hotel alone with one person. We're always in a group, and everybody's great on the road with respecting that and kind of living up to that. And not to mention, it really helps, having your kids on the road.
Your natural chaperones. Yeah.
Right. That will keep you all kinds of humble. It's truly, again, about having a deep friendship, brotherly relationship with these guys and setting up a safe space. I talk about my husband a lot. I call him a lot. I have him as my background on my phone. I post about him on social media a lot. It's just really just all those little intentionalities where you just keep your mind in the right place.
Wisdom, wisdom, wisdom. And I think a lot of times we don't want to recognize what we can be at risk for, and so we're not engaging what I would call sort of a more of a preparatory wisdom. And I think a preparatory wisdom is really important, even though, of course, we all want to believe the best about ourselves and, anything that might be in our hearts. But preparatory wisdom is a smart thing. And I love that you carry that with you on the road. Be sure and check out all that Megan is up to on the road, homeschooling those kids, making all the things work. She particularly loves to be on Instagram. You can find her there at Megan Garrett, MEGANGARRETT. Megan, thanks so much for being with us today, and be sure and connect with her there. And I'd love to connect with you too. I'm Julie Lyles Carr on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the places. And that's Julie Lyles Carr, LYLESCARR. Hey, we would love to feature one of your reviews. Would you do us a great favor? Go over, subscribe, and then review the podcast wherever you get your podcast. It somehow in the world of podcasting help gets the word out about what we're doing and what we'd like to bring for you for content and wanting to encourage and bless your life. I really appreciate this review from Stacy. She says, so excited to hear more upcoming podcasts and most definitely the encouraging and insightful. Love getting to hear Julie regularly. She has so much wisdom to offer in a fun and relatable way. Hey, Stacy, thank you so much. And we would love to feature your reviews. So be sure and leave one for us and let your friends know about the Modern Motherhood Podcast. Also connect with us at All Mom Does, at all the socials and on the blog. All kinds of fantastic writers, contributors from all different walks of life and different seasons of mothering. We would love to get you connected there through All Mom Does. As always, a very big shout out and thank you to Donna Tody. She is our producer, and to Rebecca Beckett, our content coordinator. They're the ones that help make sure that you get all of this awesome insight and information every single week. Coming up next week, you're going to love this conversation. I have as my guest Emerson Eggerich, and we're going to talk about the unique relationship between moms and sons. It's one that you don't want to miss. We'll see you next time on the Modern Motherhood Podcast.